Yesterday, the situation with North Korea was tense. And today it is terrifying because we are possibly on the brink of war. Now, it seemed like that for years now. Constantly a ship goes in the region or the regime in North Korea puts out a threatening statement. There's a lot of reason to be scared if you want to be, but it is recently ramped up just in the past 24 hours. Especially when we find out this. The US is prepared to launch a preemptive strike with conventional weapons against North Korea should officials become convinced that North Korea is about to follow through with a nuclear weapons test, according to multiple senior US intelligence officials. Those intelligence officials told NBC News that the US has positioned 2 destroyers capable of shooting Tomahawk cruise missiles in the region, one just 300 miles from the North Korean nuclear test site. American heavy bombers are also positioned in Guam to attack North Korea should it be necessary. And earlier this week, the Pentagon announced that the USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier strike group was being diverted to the area, which brings with it additional ships capable of firing cruise missiles and all of that. Now, in the wake of that report coming out, I believe late last night, some people have said no, that's actually not true, and that those multiple senior intelligence officials were all simultaneously lying to NBC News. It's possible when we get into the response from China and from North Korea that there's a reason they're trying to back off from this very hostile position that they'd set. But as of right now, it is entirely possible that were they to conduct another nuclear test, which they've done over the past decade or two, that a war could begin. And if we launch missiles, we don't know how North Korea might respond, but I think that there's reason to be scared. What do you guys think?
I mean, we have like 2 idiot man-child going toe-to-toe playing with their big toys, right? Like Donald Trump's now started to play with the big toys, the bombs, and he's super excited about what he can do with these. And he's like, ooh, where can we go next and drop another mother of all bombs? Maybe it's North Korea. Maybe it'll be a nuclear weapon. I'm sure there's no difference between electing Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I mean, there was just zero difference. I'm sure Hillary Clinton would be doing the exact same thing right now, dropping bombs all across the world, using the largest conventional weapons we have, and antagonizing us into World War III. You know, I mean, we've really put ourselves in a dangerous situation. We're facing dark days. This could be a world war, and it's a nuclear world war. You know, this is an existential threat.
Yeah.
And now it's becoming true. So we need to impeach this guy with the quickness, ASAP. We have to get him out of this office. I don't think, as much as I dislike Mike Pence, who is a horrible guy politically, I don't think he'd be doing this.
Yeah, I don't think most would. I mean, even so you brought up Hillary Clinton. So Hillary Clinton is inside the Democratic Party considered a hawk. I'm sure that were she to be president, we'd still have drone strikes in the Middle East and we'd still have bombs being dropped in Syria and all that. I don't have any doubt about that. I don't think people were predicting that we'd be on the brink of war with North Korea. I don't even know, honestly, I to the exclusion of most of my personal life, I follow what's going on with Trump. I don't even know how with Trump it's come to this, because you would think, at least in the case of North Korea, the people who are supposedly rational around him would restrain him, but they can't even keep him from tweeting. He's constantly on Twitter antagonizing North Korea. North Korea has specifically referenced his tweets when talking about the possibility of conflict. So this is a unique situation, one that even I hadn't predicted as of a month or 2 ago.
Well, I am sure that the Pentagon is going forward with a scenario that they have gamed for many years. I don't know, I think they've just been given a really long leash to go ahead and execute. I don't know what the result will be. Of course, I do think about, though, that the tenet, the doctrine of nuclear non-proliferation has been kind of a cornerstone of ours. And it's sort of a fundamental of the UN Security Council, and it's why we have these nations on this council to basically police. We don't want anyone else to have a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a guy who has a nuclear bomb now, and he's threatening to test it, and he's threatening to use it against us. I don't know what the scenario, the proper.
You mean Trump, right?
He's going to use that mother of all bombs. It's a non-nuclear warhead.
Oh, okay. It's fine then, kids. Don't worry.
Moab. So I don't know what the proper solution is, but I do know that what doesn't work well is when we remove dictators and we have a society. Imagine that society without the leadership there. What happens to that country?
If we just removed him, you're saying?
So let's say we have a strike and we remove him and destroy their nuclear capacity or a capacity to wage nuclear war. You have an indoctrinated society that then succumbs to what? Chinese influence, and they move in and make it a satellite of China.
That might be the best case scenario.
Look, that's why you don't assassinate world leaders. It's not our job to kill the leader of North Korea, right? It's the job of the people in North Korea to get rid of their dictator. And if you want to do it effectively, you should do it non-violently. There's like tons of work that shows that non-violent civil resistance movements are 3 times more successful than violent ones. And when you replace them, those dictators, if you got there violently, you're likely to have a violent government. But if you got there non-violently, you're more likely to have a democratic government. It's not our job to go shoot that guy.
So what happens when we do that? That's what frightened.
Well,
that is
you're saying if we were to take him out.
I'm just if we remove the leadership there and it becomes some sort of amorphous country on the border of China. And of course, South Korea. Like, I hope there's a strategy. That's just all. This is like, we're sort of like we're trying to sort of trim the grass without pulling the weeds out by the roots. And I don't really understand what is the plan with China and what happened at Mar-a-Lago. What discussions between those 2 men went down where Trump said, "Hey, I'm going to take out this asshole with or without you." Is that what he said?
And then they tried to explain to him what the situation actually was. And he said, "Oh, it turns out it's not that simple."
So it's a bad case scenario either way. I think that the instability is clearly there. And he is determined to follow through on a campaign promise.
Yeah.
And he's still campaigning. He's always campaigning.
Yeah, he already officially
And one of the
started his
things he
campaign.
always faulted Obama for was not dealing with the problem. And so I think he's going to deal with it, much to the detriment of all of us here on the West Coast.
Well, you
guys are welcome.
That's
to hit
true.
the
We're
bunker.
the closest people.
My bunker is friggin' awesome. Too,
I hear you got dried eggs.
The powdered eggs are amazing.
Powdered eggs, So you raised a lot of points there.
So we can ride out if there's sort of like
hopefully they'll eat the powdered eggs.
Like let's just say the fallout is sort of reserved to LA Metro. I'm on the outskirts. We ride to Mexico.
Sweet. We take a big loop around.
You
LA
gotta
County.
laugh about it. It's gonna be. We're all gonna be just covered in boils, and it's gonna.
We're all gonna die.
Okay, so you've raised a couple of.
I don't know. I'm raising things without
terms of
providing answers.
No, and look, I don't have answers. Now, I have studied the Korean situation back when I was in academia, at least to some extent. I've read some books that specifically attempted to break down hour by hour how a conflict between North Korea and South Korea and the US would go. And in this case, there is no trimming the grass. Like the idea that we can simply launch cruise missiles to destroy the site of a nuclear test. Look, he's an unstable person. Maybe he just backs off. Or maybe he begins shelling Seoul and kills hundreds of thousands of people inside of 24 hours.
You mean Trump, right?
No, in this case, no. The ability, like whether he has functional ballistic missiles. He doesn't appear to have one that's intercontinental, which is awesome for us in LA. He could have none of that. He could kill hundreds of thousands or millions of people in South Korea almost immediately using conventional weapons that are placed in mountains and are difficult to take out. Our military has looked into it, and as of at least several years ago, we can't simply destroy those in some sort of first strike. So we're talking about bloodshed on a scale that we haven't seen in the world in decades and decades. Now, if we could somehow destroy him, just him, which I don't think is necessarily possible, you would then have some other general prop himself up as emperor of North Korea, basically, I think. If you were to destroy all of that, then you would have a society that probably is not capable of running itself. You don't have civil society, you don't have a middle class. That's why I say in that case, the best case scenario is probably China moving in and helping those people. I mean, they're already starving widely. That would be even broader without the people who are running the economy there because it's all centralized.
But how's that our job? But how's that our job? I mean,
I never said anything about it being our job. I'm simply just describing what I think might happen. I'm not for launching a military strike against them. Now, as you say, we don't want them to have nuclear weapons, and that's totally true. But we also don't want South Korea to be absolutely devastated because of a strike that we do. And so our desire might be to stop them from having a nuclear weapon, but we might have no way of doing that without the unthinkable happening.
And the one thing they said is that they're not going to go forward with this attack. America is not going to go forward with this attack unless South Korea kind of gives it the green light. So that's like the one thing I read in here. I was like, okay, maybe World War III isn't quite starting like this week. Like maybe we have a few more weeks to enjoy, the coast in California.
I really like being in the middle of you two.
Sorry, the middle seat's terrible.
I wonder
we need a triangular desk.
I want to know how the dinner and the chocolate cake we heard about at Mar-a-Lago went between Trump and do you know what I'm saying?
Let's hear more
what did they talk about?
I'm sorry to extend it too much, but you can only base it off of what we've seen, the way he reacts. We're talking about our president. And it's braggadocio, it's puffing a chest, it's talking a lot without too much behind it until you have to act behind it to do something again for yourself, not because for anyone else. So any of these strikes that have the vague nature of, oh, I'm doing something for America, I'm gonna do something that our last president wouldn't do, it's actually to pump himself up. So now you have two guys who are similar in nature because we know the leaders of North Korea have to continually be pumped up by people who fake fawning, fainting, and crying over their presence. We've seen that. So it's just an extreme level of our president already. So you have two people who want to talk a lot just to show how big their hands are. And then after they do it, they have to act. So they're both standing there going, okay, which one of you being to each other is gonna act now? And we already know President Trump has no idea how anything works. There's stories about how he was ready to shut down the XM Bank until one of the CEOs of Boeing came forward and said, you know how this works, right? And goes, oh, my bad, okay. And then he also didn't even know how the FISA court works with getting tapped by Obama until after he made the accusations at the beginning of March. Then he asked, oh, how does that FISA thing work? He doesn't know how anything works, so there is no plan. Because if he had one, it's based in ignorance. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, no, it is quickly becoming a Cuban Missile Crisis, and we're approaching the hour. And I don't think Trump would back down, and I don't know anything about North Korea and whether it's just bluff or whatever.
But armed Cuban Missile Crisis started in November when this guy was elected, and we need to be the Kennedy administration, and get rid of this guy. We don't need to get rid of the leader of North Korea. That's North Korea's job. Our job is to get rid of Donald Trump and impeach him so he can't start World War III by messing around with
we can control.
We can't impeach him in time. The fleet is already on its way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just, you know what I'm saying? I'm with you.
Right. Well, it's not gonna happen this week. South Korea said no. And
you know what? This is gonna seem so stupid, but what I think about when I think about Donald Trump he's the guy who has to manage North Korea right now. We talked about he doesn't understand the Export-Import Bank, he doesn't understand the FISA courts, he doesn't understand healthcare, said it was really simple. I've seen pictures, have you seen the pictures of his ties? He doesn't realize that you tuck the little tail in the loop. He tapes it.
Yeah,
he doesn't understand how the little loop works.
No, he
how
just
is he gonna do it
prefers-
North
He
Korea?
must tie them too short to get down
prefers tape.
to the holding loop, which means he has to make.
Maybe that's the
He has a
Imagine
big
that.
belly. He wants to make sure his tie makes it
he and
over.
Melania
But he
getting
made
dressed in the
those
morning,
ties.
honey.
He
Can you
made those ties. Like you could make special ties that have like the little tag like up here. You know what I mean?
Make extra long ties.
here.
He made the tie.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I do want to read a little bit of the response from some of
very
the other
expensive tape.
actors. That's true. It's the great tape. It's the best. It's the
Great tape ever.
So on Wednesday, North Korea said it would hit the US first with a nuclear weapon should there be any signs of US strikes. So far as I know, they don't have any capability to actually do that, if that makes you feel better. On Thursday, North Korea warned of a merciless retaliatory strike should the US take any action, which at least that's backing off what they said on Wednesday. On Wednesday, they said they'd go first. On Thursday, they said retaliation. Maybe we're moving in the right direction. And the Chinese foreign minister said this in the midst of all of this back and forth between our government and North Korea, saying, amid challenge, there is opportunity. Amid tensions, we will also find a kind of opportunity to return to talks. We call on all parties to refrain from provoking and threatening each other, whether in words or actions, and not let the situation get to an irreversible and unmanageable stage. And statements from the Russian government saying something similar. That everybody needs to calm down, back off from military conflict. Because again, it would be devastating for North Korea, devastating for us, especially devastating for the people of South Korea who did not sign up for any of this.
If you're a member of the Young Turks, you not only get the whole 2-hour Young Turks show on demand anytime you want, ad-free, but you also get so many other shows. Old School, you'll love it. Aggressive Progressive for guys who are true progressives. Now also Nerd Alert for gaming and tech. What to Flick for movie reviews. You will love it. Check it out right now at tytnetwork.com/join.